Okay, in this video, um, I'm gonna talk about why check blood sugar 2 hours after a meal, post-prandial, because the reading tells you how well your body handle the glucose coming from your meal, and because anytime you eat meal, the whole curve is the pre-meal, and then 2 hours it peaks, and other 2 hours almost it goes down. So it peaks in 2 hours, in 2 hours it comes down. Um, so approximately 4 hours. Um, so 2 hours after a meal, you see the peak of blood sugar. It tells you how much glucose came to your bloodstream from the meal you just had. Um, and and it also tells you how effectively your rapid acting insulin or even natural insulin, if you're not taking insulin, is working. Um, Usually we check to our, I check on my patients. I give them a glucose tracker log, and they keep track of it. Um, and it really helps me to also adjust the pre-meal insulin. It helps you understand if your mealtime insulin, which is short-acting insulin, dose was appropriate or not. So suppose if your 2 hour sugar is more than 180, uh, um, the meal or the insulin dose was too high, right? Or too low, respectively. If the blood sugar is suppose one more than 180, that means your pre-meal insulin dose was not enough. You should be on more, right? Or it's possible that you had a larger meal, or you had a meal with more glucose in it, or you had a meal with macronutrients with higher glycemic index, right? So that's what makes the difference. Now, if suppose the blood glucose level was less than 100 milligram, so that means either you took too much insulin or you did not eat enough. That's why blood sugar is low. So maybe you ate less than what you normally do. So it's really important that be consistent in what you eat every day. Number two, how sensitive your body is to insulin. Suppose your post-meal sugars are consistently high. That means either you have insulin resistance or you have inadequate insulin coverage, the pre-meal insulin. And suppose if you drop too low, um, that means you're eating slower acting carb, you're eating a food with lower glycemic index. Or other thing is that you may need less insulin, right? Now, if your diet, timing, and activity needs adjustment, it can also tell the doctor. So suppose you started exercising. If you started exercising, then it can tell the doctor that, okay, you can go for a walk, right? 15 minutes walk. And 2 hours later after meal, if your blood sugar is in the right place, then doctor is going to say, hey, continue walking. I'm going to say, okay, maybe you need to go for a longer walk, right? So it can be adjusted. Also, it can help the doctors to talk to you about portion control, because maybe you're eating too much of meal. Could be you need to make adjustment in macronutrients, or maybe add fibers. That will affect your post meal glucose peaks, right? So how 2 hour post meal sugar affects insulin adjustment. So I'm going to give you example. So rapid acting, short acting insulin, which is Humalog, Novolog, and some others, they are a correction for meals. They correct your pre-meal blood sugar and also post-meal blood sugar peak. 2 hour glucose level tells you whether the meal dose of insulin you took really worked or not. It can also be used to fine tune future pre-meal sliding scale doses. But if the post-meal blood sugar has been consistently high, then we need to make adjustment in pre-meal sliding scale, right? So, give an example. So, suppose for breakfast, your pre-meal glucose is 130, and your 2-hour post-meal glucose is 220. So, pre-meal is 130, post-meal is 220. So, what I'm going to do in the next time, I'm going to adjust 2 extra units of insulin because your 2-hour post-meal glucose is on higher side. Suppose lunchtime, your pre-meal glucose is 140 and 2-hour post-meal glucose is 150. I mean, that's pretty good. I don't need to make any adjustment. Those seems to be adequate. Suppose for dinner, your pre-meal glucose is 120, which is a great number, and 2-hour post-meal is 90, which is on the lower side, right? So I'm going to reduce insulin by 1 to 2 units. See? So you gotta play with the numbers here. So post-meal reading closes the loop. It tells you if you're sliding a scale correction or carb counting dose was correct or not. So it's a great way to figure it out though. Now I'm going to talk about the long-acting insulin, which is called basal insulin. It controls the background glucose, a basal level of your glucose. So basal insulin, which is long-acting insulin like Lantus or Basaglar or Tresiba. The basal insulin mainly controls your fasting and between meal glucose, not meal peaks. However, if 2-hour post-meal readings are persistently high for all the meals, okay, even after adjusting short-acting dosage, it can mean that your basal insulin is too low, allowing overall drift upward throughout the day, or your basal coverage period is too short. It simply means that your once daily long-acting dose of insulin is not enough. It's wearing off early, right? So in that case, your doctor may increase your basal insulin by a few units every day until both fasting and post-meal surges come into your target. Okay, that's when we know that the basal insulin we are giving is the right dose. I hope it's making sense. Pay attention because it does get a little complicated. In summary, you have a purpose. The fasting glucose, pre-meal glucose, or 2-hour post-meal glucose. Then you have when to check: before breakfast, before each meal, 2 hours after eating. What it tells you: overnight basal control, a starting point, guides sliding scale, effectiveness of meal, insulin, and food control, and which insulin it affects. So fasting glucose, long-acting insulin dose. Pre-meal glucose, rapid acting, which is a pre-meal insulin. 2-hour post-prandial glucose, it fine-tunes short-acting insulin, and also tells you if your basal insulin dose is inadequate, right? So fasting glucose before breakfast, and it tells you overnight basal control, and it will help you to decide whether long-acting insulin dose Basagla or Lantus is good or not. Pre-meal glucose, before each meal you check it. It tells you a starting point and it guides your sliding scale, and it affects the dose of your rapid acting of pre-meal insulin. 2-hour post-meal